I should have known better than to trust my family with a contract they insisted on writing themselves. My name is Sophie, and I'm about to tell you how I learned that blood isn't always thicker than legal documents. But let me start at the beginning, back when I still believed my parents might actually love me for who I am instead of what I could do for them. "Sophie, darling, you're our angel," Mom said, gripping my hands across the mahogany dining table. Her perfectly manicured nails dug into my skin just enough to leave marks. Ariel needs this so desperately. I looked at my older sister, whose eyes were red-rimmed from another failed IVF cycle. 3 years of trying, thousands of dollars spent, and still no baby. The desperation rolled off her in waves. "I want to help," I said, meaning it, "but I need something too." Dad's fork clinked against his plate. "What kind of something?" "The non-profit, the one I've been trying to get off the ground for 2 years. I kept my voice steady, professional. "Young women aging out of foster care need support. Housing assistance, job training, counselling. I have the business plan ready. I just need funding," Dad finished. His grey eyes assessed me like I was a stock portfolio. "How much?" $200,000 to start. Enough to secure a building, hire staff, get through the first year. Mom's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. "Sophie, honey, that's quite a lot of money." "It's less than you spent on Ariel's wedding." The silence stretched until Ariel spoke up. "I'll pay you back, Sophie, once we have the baby, once things settle down." "No." Dad's voice cut through the room. "If we're doing this, we do it right. Legal contract, clear terms, no confusion later." I felt a flutter of hope. "So you'll fund the non-profit?" "After you deliver a healthy baby," Mom said. "It's only fair. You help us, we help you." Dad was already pulling out his phone. "I'll have Jack draw up the paperwork. Surrogacy agreement, compensation terms, the whole 9 yards. "Compensation?" I asked. "The non-profit funding," Ariel said quickly. "That's your compensation, right? That's what you want?" I nodded, though something in her tone made my stomach twist. "That's what I want." 3 days later, I sat in Dad's lawyer's office, reading through 12 pages of legal jargon. Jack, a man who'd handled our family's affairs for decades, walked me through each section. "Standard surrogacy agreement," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "Medical expenses covered, regular checkups, lifestyle restrictions during pregnancy. And here," he pointed to a paragraph near the end, "upon successful delivery of a healthy infant, the Matthews family agrees to provide funding in the amount of $200,000 for the establishment of Sophie Matthews's non-profit organization." "What happens if they don't pay?" I asked. Jack's eyebrows rose slightly. "Well, there's a penalty clause. Breach of contract would result in forfeiture of assets equal to the promised amount plus damages. In this case, that would likely mean the vacation property in the Hamptons." I blinked. The Hampton house was worth at least $500,000. Dad loved that place more than he loved most people. "They insisted on including it," Jack added. "Said they wanted you to know how serious they were about keeping their word. When I signed my name at the bottom, Dad beamed like he'd just closed a major business deal. Mum dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Ariel hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "Thank you," she whispered. "You're giving us everything we've ever wanted." I hugged her back, thinking about all the girls who'd aged out of foster care with nowhere to go, no one to help them. "You're giving me everything I've ever wanted too." That night I tucked the contract into my desk drawer, right next to the business plan I'd been perfecting for months. For the first time in years, I felt like my family actually saw me. Not just as the reliable daughter who always said yes, not just as the one who cleaned up everyone else's messes, but as someone with dreams worth investing in. I should have paid more attention to the way Dad smiled when he signed that contract. Should have noticed how Mom's tears dried up the second she thought I wasn't looking. Should have seen the way Ariel's gratitude felt more like relief than love. But I was too busy imagining the faces of all the young women I was going to help. Too busy believing that maybe, finally, my family would see me as more than just their backup plan. The pregnancy test came back positive 2 weeks later. I called them immediately, my voice shaking with excitement. "We did it," I said. "We're having a baby." The celebration that followed should have been my first warning, because when Dad popped the champagne, he toasted the future Matthew's heir. Not me, not my sacrifice, just the baby I was carrying for them. I smiled and raised my glass anyway. After all, I had a contract. The morning sickness hit me like a freight train at exactly 6 weeks. I was hunched over the toilet in my tiny apartment when my phone rang. "Sophie," Ariel's voice bubbled through the speaker, "I just bought the most adorable onesie. It says Mommy's Little Prince in gold letters." I wiped my mouth with a shaky hand. "That's nice. Are you okay? You sound weird. Just threw up for the 3rd time this morning." "Oh," a pause. "Well, that's normal, right? It means the baby's healthy." I wanted to scream that I was the one suffering, not some abstract concept of the baby. But I just said, "Yeah, totally normal." "Mom wants to know if you're taking your prenatal vitamins. She read that the expensive ones are better for brain development." "I'm taking them." "Great. Oh, and we're having a little family dinner Sunday to celebrate. Can you make it?" I dragged myself off the bathroom floor. "Sure." Sunday dinner turned into a baby planning session. Mum had printed out nursery designs, Dad was researching private schools, and Ariel couldn't stop talking about strollers that cost more than my monthly rent. "We're thinking of a nautical theme," Mum said, spreading fabric samples across the table. "Very classic, very timeless." "What do you think, Sophie?" Ariel asked, though she was already moving toward the navy blue samples. "It's your nursery." "Well, yes, but you're carrying him. You should have input too." The way she said it made my skin crawl, like I was some kind of vessel instead of a person. "I'm good with whatever you choose." Dad looked up from his phone. "Sophie, you need to start thinking about your diet. I've been reading about optimal nutrition for fetal brain development." "I'm eating fine." "Are you, though?" Mum's voice carried that familiar edge of criticism, wrapped in concern. "You look a bit pale and thin. Are you getting enough protein?" "I'm literally growing a human being. I think I know what my body needs." "Of course, darling. We just want what's best for the baby." Always the baby, never me. My phone buzzed with a text from Remington, my old colleague from the legal aid clinic. "How's the family project going?" I excused myself to the bathroom and called him back. "Rem, I need to vent." "Shoot." "They're treating me like an incubator. Everything is about the baby. Nothing is about me actually being pregnant and miserable." "That sucks. But hey, at least you've got that ironclad contract, right?" I smiled for the first time all day. My family's insurance policy is definitely ironclad. Good. Don't let them forget what they owe you. When I returned to the dining room, they were discussing baby names. All traditional, all family names, all chosen without asking my opinion. "What about Sophie?" my youngest sister Faith asked quietly. She'd been silent most of the evening, picking at her food. "What about Sophie?" Mom replied. "I mean, shouldn't she get to suggest names? She's the one carrying him." Ariel's face tightened. "We've already discussed this as a family." "Sophie is family," Faith said. "Of course she is," Dad said smoothly. "But Ariel and Timothy are the parents. It's their decision." I caught Faith's eye across the table. She gave me a small, sympathetic smile that said everything she couldn't voice out loud. The months crawled by. My body changed, my energy disappeared, and my family's attention shifted more and more toward the abstract future baby and away from my present reality. Doctor's appointments became group events where I felt like a spectator to my own pregnancy. "The heartbeat is so strong," Ariel would gush, squeezing my hand while staring at the ultrasound screen. "Look at those little feet," Mom would coo, taking pictures of the monitor. I'd lie there, gel cold on my expanding belly, watching them fall in love with someone who didn't exist yet while barely acknowledging the person right in front of them. At 24 weeks, I started getting kicked hard enough to wake me up at night. When I mentioned it at our weekly family dinner, Dad immediately pulled out his phone. "I'll research sleep positions for optimal fetal positioning," he said. "Maybe Sophie just needs better pillows," Faith suggested. "The baby's comfort is what matters," Mom said firmly. That night, Faith texted me, "Want to get coffee tomorrow? Just us." We met at a small cafe near my apartment. Faith looked nervous, stirring her latte without drinking it. "I need to ask you something," she said finally. "Okay. Do you ever feel like they only care about us when we're useful to them?" The question hit me like a punch to the gut. "What do you mean?" "I mean, look at this whole situation. They're treating you like hired help, not their daughter. And me, I'm basically invisible unless they need something." I stared at her across the table. Faith had always been the quiet one, the one who faded into the background while Ariel shined, and I played the role of reliable helper. "Yeah," I said quietly, "I do feel like that. I keep waiting for them to remember that you're sacrificing your body for 9 months, that you're giving up dating, drinking, sleeping comfortably, all of it, but they act like you should just be grateful to be included." "I have the contract," I said. "They'll pay up when this is over." Faith's expression was sceptical. "Will they, though? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like they're already rewriting history. Like this baby was always theirs and you're just... I don't know, the delivery service." Her words echoed in my head for days. At 30 weeks, when Dad toasted our future grandson at another family dinner and somehow managed to avoid mentioning my name entirely, I realised Faith was right. They weren't seeing me as family anymore, they were seeing me as a means to an end, and that end was getting closer every day. The contractions started at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. I called Ariel first, then my parents, my hands shaking as I dialed. "It's time," I managed between breaths. Oh my God. Ariel's voice was pure excitement. "We're coming right now." They beat the ambulance to my apartment. Mum burst through my door like she owned the place, immediately taking charge. "Where's your hospital bag? Did you time the contractions? Ariel, call Timothy." "I'm right here," I said, doubled over on my couch. "Of course you are, darling. Let's get you to the hospital." The next 12 hours were a blur of pain, medical staff and my family treating me like I was invisible. They huddled around my hospital bed, discussing logistics and making phone calls while I breathed through contractions that felt like my body was being torn apart. "The nursery is ready," Ariel told Timothy over the phone. "Mum picked up the car seat yesterday." "Did someone call the photographer?" Dad asked. "We want to document this moment." "What about Sophie's comfort?" Faith asked quietly. She'd arrived an hour earlier, looking exhausted from her overnight shift at the restaurant. "Sophie's fine," Mom said dismissively. "The nurses are taking excellent care of her." A nurse came in to check my progress. "You're at 8 centimetres. Won't be much longer now." "Did you hear that?" Ariel grabbed Timothy's hand. 8 centimetres. The nurse looked at me with sympathy. "How are you feeling, Sophie?" "Like I'm being split in half." "That's completely normal. You're doing great." At least someone was talking to me like I was a person. When the final push came, the room erupted in chaos. Ariel was crying, Mom was taking pictures, Dad was pacing, and Timothy looked like he might faint. Through it all, I focused on the doctor's voice, the only calm presence in the storm. "One more push, Sophie. You've got this." And then he was here. 7 pounds, 2 ounces of screaming, perfect baby boy. "He's beautiful," the doctor said, placing him on my chest for exactly 30 seconds before a nurse whisked him away for cleaning. "Look at him," Ariel sobbed. "He's perfect." Mum immediately started directing the photographer. "Get one of Ariel holding him and one with Timothy. Oh, and a family shot." "What about Sophie?" Faith asked. "Sophie needs to rest," Mum said firmly. She's done her part. I watched from my hospital bed as they passed the baby around, cooing and taking pictures. Nobody offered to let me hold him again. Nobody asked how I was feeling. Nobody seemed to remember that I'd just spent 12 hours in labour. "We should call him James," Dad announced. "After my father." "James Timothy," Ariel agreed, not looking away from the baby's face. "Shouldn't Sophie get a say?" Faith tried again. "Sophie isn't the parent," Mom said sharply. "This is Ariel and Timothy's decision." The nurse came back with discharge paperwork. "Sophie, you'll need to stay overnight for observation, but the baby can go home with the parents whenever you're ready." "We're ready now," Ariel said immediately. "Don't you want to wait until Sophie's released?" Faith asked. "There's no need," Mum said. "The baby needs to get settled in his nursery." I watched them bundle up James in a blanket I'd never seen before, gathering their things like they were checking out of a hotel. "Thank you, Sophie," Ariel said, leaning down to kiss my forehead. "This is the most amazing gift anyone has ever given us." "We're so grateful," Timothy added, though he couldn't quite meet my eyes. "Get some rest, darling," Mom said. "You've earned it." And then they were gone. All of them except Faith, who lingered by my bedside. "This is fucked up," she said quietly. "Language," I said weakly, trying to make a joke. "I'm serious. They just took that baby and left you here like you're nothing. I'm tired, Faith." "I know you are, but Sophie, they're not even pretending to care about you anymore." After she left, I lay in the dark hospital room, my body aching and empty. A nurse came in to check on me. "How are you feeling, honey?" "Hollow." She sat on the edge of my bed. "First time being a surrogate. And last. The emotional part is always harder than people expect. You okay being alone tonight?" I nodded, though I wasn't sure I was okay at all. My phone buzzed with notifications, social media posts from my family, all featuring the baby. "Welcome to the world, James Timothy. Our miracle baby is finally here. So blessed and grateful." I scrolled through dozens of photos. The baby with Ariel, the baby with Timothy, the baby with my parents. A family photo with everyone gathered around Ariel as she held James. I wasn't in a single one. The next morning, I was discharged to my empty apartment. No flowers, no congratulations cards, no check-in calls. Just silence and the lingering ache of everything my body had just been through. I pulled out my phone and called Remington. "Hey, how did it go?" "I gave birth yesterday." "Holy shit, Sophie. Congratulations. How are you feeling?" "Like I just realized my family sees me as a rental car they're done using." "What do you mean?" I told him about the hospital, the photos, the way they'd left me alone without a second thought. "Jesus, Sophie, that's cold, even for them." "I need to ask you something." "Anything." "When I'm ready to collect on that contract, will you help me?" There was a pause. "Are you sure that's what you want?" I looked around my empty apartment, at the silence where gratitude should have been, at the absence of any acknowledgement that I'd just sacrificed 9 months of my life for them. "I'm sure." "Then yeah, I'll help you burn it all down." 1 week after giving birth, I drove to my parents' house. My body still ached, but I needed answers. Mum opened the door with James in her arms, bouncing him gently. "Sophie, what a lovely surprise. How are you feeling?" "Ready to talk about the non-profit," her smile flickered. "Oh, darling, come in. Your father's in his study." I found Dad behind his mahogany desk, reading financial reports. He looked up when I entered, his expression carefully neutral. "Sophie, you look well." "I feel like I got hit by a truck, but thanks." I sat down across from him. "We need to discuss the contract." "What about it?" "The $200,000 for the non-profit. I've already found a building and I need to move fast before someone else snatches it up." Dad set down his papers and leaned back in his chair. "Sophie, I think you're being a bit hasty." "Hasty? We agreed on this 9 months ago." We agreed you'd be compensated for your service, and you have been. How exactly have I been compensated? You gave your sister the greatest gift imaginable. You helped create our family's legacy. Having a grandson is payment enough. The words hit me like a slap. Payment enough. Think about it rationally. You're young. You have your whole life ahead of you. James is going to carry on the family name, inherit the business, continue our bloodline. You played a crucial role in that. I didn't play a role, Dad. I sacrificed my body for 9 months. I gave up dating, drinking, sleeping comfortably. I went through 12 hours of labour. That's not playing a role. That's doing the work. And we're grateful. Grateful doesn't pay rent. Grateful doesn't fund a non-profit. Grateful doesn't honour a legal contract. Dad's jaw tightened. Don't lecture me about legal contracts, young lady. I've been handling business deals since before you were born. Then you should understand that a contract is a contract. Mum appeared in the doorway with James. What's all the shouting about? Sophie wants us to give her $200,000, Dad said. We agreed to give her $200,000, I corrected. For what? Mum asked, genuinely confused. For carrying your grandson for 9 months. Sophie, honey, that's what family does for each other. We don't charge each other for favours. This wasn't a favour. This was a business arrangement with a contract. A contract that was meant to protect everyone involved, Dad said, not to be used as blackmail. It's not blackmail if you honour your agreements. Ariel walked in looking frazzled. What's going on? I could hear you from the nursery. Sophie wants money, Mum said, like I was asking for drug money. The money you promised me, I said. The money that's legally mine according to the contract Dad insisted on. Ariel shifted uncomfortably. Sophie, can we talk about this later? James just fell asleep and... No, we can't talk about this later. I've been trying to talk about this for a week and everyone keeps brushing me off. Because it's inappropriate, Dad snapped. You just gave birth. You're emotional. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. You made a promise. You signed a contract. Now you need to pay up. Or what? Dad's voice was cold now. What are you going to do? Sue your own family? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Everyone stared at me, waiting for my answer. If I have to, Mum gasped. Sophie, you can't be serious, Ariel said. Dead serious. I have a legally binding contract that you all signed. I fulfilled my end of the bargain. Now you need to fulfill yours. Dad stood up, his face red. Get out. Excuse me. You heard me. Get out of my house. If you want to threaten your own family with lawsuits, you can do it from somewhere else. Dominic, Mom said weakly. No, Vivian, I won't be extorted by my own daughter. Sophie, you have until the end of the week to come to your senses. After that, don't bother coming back. I looked around the room at my family. Mum clutching James like a shield. Ariel avoiding my eyes. Dad standing behind his desk like a king dismissing a peasant. Fine, I said, but the contract doesn't have an expiration date. I drove straight to Faith's apartment. She opened the door in her work uniform, looking exhausted. Sophie! What's wrong? They're not going to pay. What? I told her everything, the conversation, Dad's dismissal, the way they acted like I was being unreasonable for expecting them to honour their word. Jesus, Faith said when I finished. I mean, I knew they were selfish, but this is next level. Faith, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Okay, do you think I'm wrong for wanting what they promised me? She was quiet for a long moment. Sophie, I've watched them manipulate you your entire life. They promise you things to get what they want, then act like you're greedy for expecting them to follow through. Remember when they promised to pay for your college if you got straight A's? They said they couldn't afford it after Ariel's wedding. Right, and when they promised to help with your student loans if you moved back home after graduation. They said I needed to learn financial responsibility. And now this. Sophie, they've been doing this to you forever. I always thought they'd eventually do it to me too, but you You always believed them. You always gave them the benefit of the doubt. So you think I should sue them? Faith looked me straight in the eye. I think you should do whatever it takes to get what's yours. They sure as hell would. That night I sat in my apartment with the contract spread out on my kitchen table. I read every word, every clause, every condition. It was ironclad. Dad's lawyer had done his job too well. I picked up my phone and called Remington. "It's go time," I said when he answered. "You sure about this? They threw me out of the house for asking for what they owe me. They called it extortion. They acted like I was some kind of criminal for expecting them to honour a contract they insisted on writing. Okay, I'll start drafting the paperwork tomorrow." "Rem? Yeah? This is going to get ugly, isn't it?" "Probably. You ready for that?" I looked at the contract one more time, at my father's signature at the bottom, confident and bold. I'm ready. The formal notice arrived at my parents' house on a Thursday morning. Remington hand-delivered it himself, dressed in his best suit and carrying a leather briefcase that screamed serious legal business. My phone started ringing 20 minutes later. "Sophie!" Dad's voice was pure rage. "What the hell is this?" "It's a breach of contract notification, pretty self-explanatory. You're suing us for the house? I'm enforcing the penalty clause that you insisted on including, $200,000 in damages or equivalent assets. The Hampton house appraises at about $500,000, so it more than covers what you owe me." "This is insane! You can't take our house." "Actually, I can. It's all right there in the contract you signed." "Vivienne!" I heard him yell. "Call Jack! Call him right now!" The line went dead. My phone immediately rang again. "Sophie, please." Mom's voice was shaking. "This has gone too far." "Has it? Because from where I'm sitting, it hasn't gone far enough. We're family. Family doesn't do this to each other." "You're right. Family doesn't promise their daughter the world, and then throw her out when she asks for what she's owed." "We never threw you out." "Dad literally told me to get out of his house. He was upset. He didn't mean it." "Well, I'm upset too, and I do mean it." Ariel called an hour later, crying, "Sophie, please, you have to stop this. The house, it's where we spent every summer growing up. It's where I want to take James for his first beach vacation." "Then you should have thought about that before you decided my sacrifice wasn't worth honouring your promises." "I didn't decide anything. This is between you and Mom and Dad." "No, Ariel, you were there. You heard them dismiss me. You watched them act like I was being unreasonable. You didn't say a word in my defence. I didn't know what to say. How about Sophie deserves what we promised her? How about she just gave us the most important thing in our lives? How about anything that acknowledged I'm a human being and not just a walking uterus? That's not fair. What's not fair is spending 9 months growing your child and then being treated like hired help the second he was born." "Sophie, please, I'm begging you, don't do this. Did you ever care about me for me, Ariel, or was I always just useful to you?" The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. I love you, Sophie. That's not what I asked." She hung up. Jack called that afternoon. "Sophie, this is Jack, your family's attorney. I know who you are. I need you to understand something. This lawsuit is going to destroy your family. My family destroyed itself when they decided to break a legal contract. There has to be a way to resolve this without litigation. What do you really want here?" "I want exactly what the contract says I'm owed, $200,000 for my non-profit. And if they can't come up with that kind of cash immediately, then they forfeit the house. It's pretty simple. Sophie, I've known your family for 20 years. Your father built his business from nothing. Your mother has hosted charity events in that house for decades. It's not just property to them. And my non-profit isn't just a hobby to me. It's my life's work. It's how I'm going to help young women who have nobody else. But apparently that doesn't matter to anyone. What if we could arrange a payment plan? Jack, Let me ask you something. If this was any other client, if someone signed a contract with penalty clauses and then refused to honour it, what would you advise? Another long pause. I'd tell them they don't have a legal leg to stand on. Exactly. So stop trying to make me feel guilty for enforcing a contract your client insisted on writing. The gossip started within days. My parents moved in the same social circles they'd inhabited for decades, and news of a family lawsuit travels fast in small, wealthy communities. Faith texted me, "Mom's book club is buzzing. Apparently you're either a vindictive gold digger or a feminist hero, depending on who's talking." "What do you think?" I texted back. "I think you're my sister and I'm proud of you for not backing down." The local newspaper picked up the story a week later. Local family embroiled in surrogacy dispute. They didn't use names, but in a town this size, everyone knew exactly who they were talking about. Timothy called me that evening. "Sophie, this is getting out of hand. My partners at the firm are asking questions. This kind of publicity isn't good for anyone." "Then maybe you should talk to your in-laws about honouring their contracts. You're destroying Ariel. She hasn't slept in days. She's barely eating. The stress is affecting her milk supply." "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you? Because it doesn't sound like you're sorry about anything." "I'm sorry it came to this. I'm sorry they forced my hand. I'm sorry they chose their pride over their promises. But I'm not sorry for standing up for myself. This isn't standing up for yourself. This is revenge. Maybe, but it's also justice." Mum called that night, her voice barely a whisper. "The Hendersons cancelled their dinner party invitation. The Whitneys won't return my calls. Sophie, people are talking." "Good. Maybe they should talk. Maybe other people should know what happens when you break promises to family members. We want to meet, all of us, one more time, for the sake of the family. The family that threw me out, the family that called me an extortionist, that family? Please, Sophie, one last chance to work this out." I looked at the newspaper clipping on my coffee table, at the headline that had probably ruined their week. "Fine, but I'm bringing Remington. Sophie, those are my terms. Take them or leave them." "We'll take them." After I hung up, I called Remington. "They want a meeting. You ready for this?" "I've been ready since the day they decided I wasn't worth keeping their word to. This is going to be brutal, Sophie. They're going to pull out every emotional manipulation in the book. Let them try. I've got something they don't." "What's that?" "A legally binding contract and absolutely nothing left to lose." The meeting was set for Saturday afternoon at my parents' house. I arrived with Remington, who carried a briefcase full of legal documents and wore his most intimidating courtroom expression. Mom answered the door, her usual perfect composure cracked around the edges. Dark circles under her eyes, hair not quite as styled as usual. "Sophie, Remington." She nodded stiffly. "Everyone's in the living room." The scene was like a funeral. Dad sat in his leather chair, jaw clenched. Ariel was on the couch next to Timothy, who kept checking his phone nervously. Jack sat across from them with his own stack of papers. Faith was in the corner chair, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. "Before we start," Dad said without preamble, "I want you to know that the Riverside Country Club has asked us to step down from the charity board. 20 years of service, and they're worried about family drama affecting their reputation." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, settling into the remaining chair. "Are you?" Mum's voice was sharp. "Because this whole thing is destroying everything we've built. What you built was built on broken promises and manipulation. Maybe it deserves to be destroyed." "Jesus, Sophie," Timothy muttered. Remington opened his briefcase. "Let's focus on the legal facts. My client fulfilled her contractual obligations. Your family has not. The penalty clause is clear and enforceable." "This is ridiculous," Dad said. "Sophie, you're talking about taking our family home over money. I'm talking about enforcing a contract you insisted on writing." "We'll pay you," Ariel said suddenly. "Not all at once, but we'll figure out a payment plan. Please, just don't take the house." How much can you pay up front? Remington asked. Timothy and Ariel exchanged glances. Maybe 50,000, Timothy said, if we liquidate some investments. And the rest? 5,000 a month? Ariel's voice was hopeful. Remington did quick math. That's 30 months to pay off the remainder, plus interest, plus legal fees. Legal fees? Dad's face was turning red again. You breached the contract. You're responsible for my client's legal costs. This is extortion, Dad said. No, Remington replied calmly. Extortion is threatening to do something illegal unless you're paid. This is contract enforcement, completely legal. Jack cleared his throat. I've reviewed the contract extensively. It's comprehensive. The penalty clause is ironclad. Whose side are you on? Dad snapped. I'm on the side of legal reality. You signed this contract. You're bound by its terms. Mum started crying. Sophie, please. That house is where your father proposed to me. It's where you girls learned to swim. It's where we've hosted Christmas for 15 years. And my non-profit is where I'm going to help young women who have nowhere else to turn. But apparently that doesn't matter to any of you. Of course it matters, Ariel said, but there has to be another way. There was another way. It was called keeping your promise. Faith spoke up for the first time. Can I say something? Everyone turned to look at her. I've been watching this family my whole life. Sophie, you've always been the one who gives and gives and gives. You helped Ariel through college when she was failing chemistry. You took care of Mom when she had her surgery. You've been the family problem solver for as long as I can remember. Faith, Mom warned. No, let me finish. And every single time, you guys promise her something in return. And every single time when it comes time to pay up, there's an excuse. She's being unreasonable or greedy, or she should just be grateful for the opportunity to help family. That's not true, Dad said. It is true. I've watched it happen over and over, and now Sophie finally has something in writing, something you can't wiggle out of, and you're acting like she's the villain. Faith, you don't understand the complexities, Mom started. I understand that Sophie spent 9 months growing a baby for you, and you can't even be bothered to keep your word to her. The room fell silent. Timothy's phone buzzed, and he glanced at it, his face going pale. What? Ariel asked. It's my partner at the firm. Someone leaked the story to the legal newsletter. Prominent local attorney family faces surrogacy lawsuit. They used our names, Mom asked, horrified. Timothy nodded. Everything. The whole story. Dad's face went from red to purple. This is what you wanted, isn't it, Sophie? To humiliate us publicly? I wanted you to honour your contract. Everything else is just consequences. We're ruined, Mom whispered. Socially, professionally, everything. You ruined yourselves when you decided to break your word. Jack leaned forward. Sophie, what would it take to make this go away? Complete payment plus damages? The full $200,000 plus legal fees plus a public apology, acknowledging that I fulfilled my contractual obligations and they failed to honour theirs. A public apology? Dad stood up. Absolutely not. Then we'll see you in court. Sophie, wait. Ariel was crying now. Please, I'm begging you. I'll do anything. I'll pay you myself somehow. Just please don't destroy our family. I'm not destroying anything, Ariel. I'm just refusing to let you destroy me anymore. What does that mean? It means I'm done being the family doormat. I'm done sacrificing myself for people who see me as disposable. I'm done believing that someday you'll actually value me for who I am instead of what I can do for you. Faith stood up. I'm with Sophie. Faith! Mom gasped. No, I'm serious. I'm tired of watching this family treat Sophie like garbage. If she wants to take the house, good for her. Maybe it'll teach you all a lesson about keeping your promises. You're both being ridiculous, Dad said. This is about money, not principles. Everything is about money with you, Faith shot back. Sophie's worth, Ariel's wedding, the house, your reputation. It's all just transactions to you." "That's enough," Mom said sharply. "No, it's not enough. It's not nearly enough." Faith grabbed her purse. "Sophie, when you win this lawsuit, I want to help with the non-profit. I'm done with this family's bullshit." She walked out, leaving the rest of us in stunned silence. Remington closed his briefcase. "I think we're done here. You have 48 hours to decide. Full payment, or we proceed with asset forfeiture." As we walked to the door, I heard Mum whisper to Dad, "How did we get here?" "We got here," I said, turning back, "because you forgot that love isn't supposed to be transactional. But don't worry, I learned that lesson from the best teachers." The door closed behind us with a finality that felt like the end of everything I'd ever known. And for the first time in my life, that felt like freedom. The 48 hours passed without a word from my family. On Monday morning, Remington filed the asset forfeiture paperwork. By Tuesday, the Sheriff's Department had posted a notice on the Hampton House door. My phone rang at 6 a.m. Wednesday. "Sophie," Dad's voice was hollow, "we need to talk, all of us, one final time. I thought we said everything we needed to say. Please, the house, they're scheduling the auction for next month. We can't let this happen. You can stop it any time by honouring your contract. We don't have $200,000 liquid. You know that. Then you should have thought about that before you signed a contract promising it. Sophie, I'm begging you, as your father. Please." Something in his voice made me pause. I'd never heard him beg for anything. One meeting, final offer, and this time everyone tells the truth. "What do you mean?" "I mean no more manipulation, no more emotional blackmail, no more pretending this is about anything other than you breaking your word to me." "Fine. Tonight, 7 o'clock. I called Faith. "They want another meeting." "Are you going?" "Yeah, but I want you there." "Sophie, I don't think—" "Please, I need someone in that room who's actually on my side." "Okay, but I'm not staying quiet this time." That evening, we gathered in the same living room, but the atmosphere was different. Defeated. Mom sat with her hands folded, staring at the floor. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years in a week. Ariel clutched a tissue, her eyes red and swollen. "Before anyone says anything," I began, "I want to make something clear. I didn't create this situation. You did, when you decided my sacrifice wasn't worth honouring your promises." "We know," Dad said quietly. "Do you? Because for the past month, you've acted like I'm the villain here, like I'm being unreasonable for expecting you to keep your word." "You're not being unreasonable," Mom said, her voice barely audible. "What?" She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. "You're not being unreasonable. We broke our promise to you. We treated you terribly, and now we're losing everything because of it." The admission hung in the air like a confession. "Why?" I asked. "Why did you think you could just not pay me?" Dad cleared his throat. "Because we always have before." "What?" "Every time we've promised you something and then found a reason not to follow through, you've accepted it. You've been disappointed, but you've accepted it. We thought this would be the same. You thought I'd just let you steal $200,000 from me? We thought you'd understand that family comes first," Mum said. "That you'd be happy just knowing you helped create James." "But I'm family too. Why doesn't that matter?" Silence. Faith leaned forward. "Because Sophie's always been the giver in this family. The one who sacrifices, the one who makes everyone else's lives easier, and you all got so used to taking from her that you forgot she's a person with her own dreams and needs." "That's not—" Ariel started. "It is true," Faith interrupted. "Sophie, tell them about college." "Faith, don't." "No, tell them. Tell them how you worked 3 jobs to pay for school because they spent your college fund on Ariel's wedding." "Faith, stop. Tell them about the student loans you're still paying because they promised to help and then decided you needed to learn responsibility." Faith! Tell them about every birthday they forgot, every achievement they ignored, every time they made you feel like you were lucky just to be included in this family. The room erupted. That's enough, Dad shouted. No, it's not enough, Faith shouted back. It's never been enough. Sophie has given and given and given to this family, and what has she gotten in return? Broken promises and guilt trips. We love Sophie, Mom said weakly. Do you? Faith's voice was ice cold. Because love isn't just words. Love is actions. Love is keeping your promises. Love is treating someone like they matter. Of course Sophie matters, Ariel said. Then why didn't any of you fight for her when Dad threw her out? Why didn't you stand up to Mom and Dad when they decided not to pay her? Why did you all just go along with screwing over your own sister? Ariel broke down completely. Because I wanted the baby so badly. Because I was scared if I pushed too hard, Sophie would back out. Because I'm selfish and horrible and I've been lying to myself about it for months. Finally, Faith said, some honesty. Timothy spoke up. Sophie, I owe you an apology. I knew this was wrong. I knew you deserved to be paid. But I was a coward. I didn't want to rock the boat. And now the boat's sinking anyway, Faith said. Dad stood up slowly. Sophie, I need to tell you something about why we really didn't want to pay you. Dominic, Mom warned. No, Vivian, she deserves to know. He turned to me. We don't have the money. What do you mean? The business is failing, has been for 2 years. We're leveraged to the hilt. The house, the cars, everything is mortgaged. We were hoping that by the time you asked for payment, we'd have figured something out. So, you gambled with my future. Yes. You let me sacrifice my body for 9 months, knowing you couldn't pay me. Yes. And you were just going to... What? Hope I'd forget about it. We were going to try to convince you that being part of James's life was payment enough. The truth hit me like a physical blow. You never intended to pay me. We wanted to. We just couldn't. Then you shouldn't have made the promise. You're right. I looked around the room at my family, at their tears, their shame, their desperation, at the wreckage of relationships that had been built on lies and manipulation. The auction stands, I said quietly. Sophie, please, Ariel whispered. No. You all made your choices. You chose to lie to me. You chose to use me. You chose to break your promises. Now you get to live with the consequences. I stood up to leave. Sophie, wait. Mum's voice stopped me. What happens to us now? I don't know, Mum. What happens to families who destroy themselves? We're still your family. Are you? Because family is supposed to love and support each other. Family is supposed to keep their promises. Family is supposed to have each other's backs. We can learn, Dad said desperately. We can change. Maybe, but not with me. I'm done being your family scapegoat. Faith stood up. I'm going with Sophie. Faith, no, Mom pleaded. Yes, I'm done watching this family destroy the people who love them most. As we walked out together, I heard Ariel call out, Sophie, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I paused at the door. I know you are, Ariel, but sorry doesn't give me back 9 months of my life, and it doesn't make your promises worth anything. The door closed behind us, and I knew I'd never walk through it again. The Hampton house sold at auction for $475,000. After legal fees and court costs, I walked away with enough to fund my non-profit for 3 years and buy a small building in the downtown area that needed work but had good bones. Faith quit her restaurant job the day after the auction and showed up at my apartment with 2 suitcases and a determination I'd never seen in her before. I want to help, she said, with the non-profit, with everything. Faith, you don't have to... Yes, I do. I've spent my whole life watching our family destroy people. I want to spend the rest of it helping you build something better. The local newspaper ran a follow-up story when we opened the doors of Haven House. From family feud to fresh start, local woman, opens non-profit for at-risk youth. The reporter, a woman in her 30s with kind eyes, interviewed me in our newly renovated common room. "Do you have any regrets about how things ended with your family?" she asked. "I regret that it came to this. I regret that they chose pride over promises. But I don't regret standing up for myself." What would you say to other people who feel trapped by family expectations? I'd say that love shouldn't come with conditions. And if someone's love for you depends on you sacrificing yourself, that's not love. That's exploitation. The article ran with a photo of me and Faith painting one of the bedrooms, both of us covered in pale yellow paint, and laughing. It was the first photo of me in a newspaper where I looked genuinely happy. Remington stopped by on a Tuesday afternoon, carrying coffee and wearing a smile that made my stomach flutter in ways I'd forgotten were possible. "How's the first week going?" he asked, handing me a cup. "Crazy. We've already had 5 girls reach out about housing. 3 are aging out of foster care next month." "That's amazing, Sophie." "It is. It's exactly what I dreamed it would be." He sat down across from me at the desk I'd assembled myself from IKEA boxes. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if they'd just paid you? If they'd kept their promise from the beginning?" "Every day. But then I think about how they treated me during the pregnancy, after the birth, during the whole mess. The money was never really the issue. It was about them seeing me as disposable. And now I'm not disposable to anyone, especially not to myself." My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I glanced at it and felt my heart skip. "What is it?" Remington asked. "It's from Ariel." The message was long, rambling, full of apologies and explanations. She was in therapy. She was trying to understand how she'd become someone who could watch her sister be treated so badly. She wanted to know if there was any chance, someday, that we could talk. "What are you going to do?" Remington asked. "I don't know yet. Maybe someday, when I'm ready, when she's really changed, not just sorry she got caught." "That's very mature of you. I'm learning that forgiveness isn't about them. It's about me not carrying their poison around anymore." Faith burst through the front door, her arms full of grocery bags. "Sophie, you'll never guess what just happened." "What?" "I ran into Mrs. Henderson at the store. You know, Mum's old book club friend. She pulled me aside and said she thinks what you did was brave. She said she wished she'd had the courage to stand up to her own family when they tried to control her life." "Really?" "Really. And she wants to make a donation, a big one." That evening, as we sat in our tiny office surrounded by boxes of donated clothes and supplies, my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. "Hello?" "Hi, is this Sophie, the woman from the newspaper article?" "Yes, this is Sophie. My name is Jessica. I'm 22 and I just aged out of foster care. I saw your article and I need help. My foster family kicked me out the day I turned 18 and I've been sleeping in my car for 2 weeks. Jessica, where are you right now?" "In the parking lot of a 24-hour diner on 5th Street. "Stay there. I'm coming to get you." I grabbed my keys and looked at Faith, who was already putting on her jacket. "Room for one more?" she asked. "Always." As we drove through the quiet streets toward Jessica, I thought about the chain of events that had brought me here. The betrayal, the lawsuit, the family that had crumbled under the weight of its own toxicity. The pain of losing people I'd loved, even if they'd never really loved me back. But also the freedom, the purpose, the knowledge that I'd built something meaningful from the ashes of their broken promises. "Sophie," Faith said quietly. "Yeah? Thank you for showing me that we don't have to accept being treated badly just because we're family. Thank you for standing with me when it mattered." We pulled into the diner parking lot and saw a young woman sitting in an old Honda Civic, her belongings piled in the back seat. She looked scared and alone and desperate. She looked exactly like I had felt for most of my life. I got out of the car and walked over to her window. She rolled it down, tears streaming down her face. "Jessica." "Yes." "I'm Sophie. You're safe now. We're going to take care of you." As we helped her gather her things, my phone buzzed with another message. This one from a different, unknown number. "Hi, I read about your non-profit online. My daughter is 17 and about to age out of the system. Can you help us prepare for her transition?" Then another. "I'm a social worker. I have 3 girls who could really use your services." And another. "I want to volunteer. How can I help?" I looked at the messages, at Jessica loading her life into our car, at Faith organising donation boxes with the efficiency of someone who'd found her calling. The cycle was broken. The pattern of taking and using and discarding was over. In its place was something better. Something built on genuine care instead of obligation. Something that grew stronger instead of more toxic with each person it touched. My family had taught me that love was transactional, that worth was conditional, that promises were just words people used to get what they wanted. But they'd also taught me, without meaning to, exactly what I didn't want to become. And sometimes the best revenge is proving them wrong by building something beautiful from the wreckage they left behind. "Ready to go home?" I asked Jessica. She nodded, wiping her eyes. "I don't have anywhere else to go." "Yes, you do," Faith said, climbing into the driver's seat. "You have us now." As we drove toward Haven House, toward the future I'd built with my own hands and my own determination, I realized something that would have surprised my family. I wasn't angry anymore. I was free.